The lawyer from my BNI group is also in that building. And I thought, oh, great. So, there's my other kind of source of referrals, and there's already somebody from my BNI group there. So how the heck am I going to find any referrals? And I was super worried about that. But I sat down and I thought, okay, well, in the people that I know, who's looking for an IT guy? Who's been talking about doing social media marketing? Who might need some of the services? And actually, in the first month, I gave 8 referrals, and I actually got the award that month in my BNI group for having the most referrals.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I am your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be a great one. Our returning guest is a bookkeeper who owns Graham Consulting and Training, Inc., which specializes in helping lawyers grow their practices profitably. Nancy Gwynne-Vaughan, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much, Michael, and it is a delight to be back on the show.
It is our listeners' delight, and Nancy, this is your 4th time on the podcast, and so officially you are the number 1 returning guest.
Oh, wow. There you go. That's pretty cool.
I know. I thought so too. Always interesting topics, and I'm looking forward to today's topic as well. And so for our listener, instead of spending time telling the listener all about who you are, they can go to either episode 33, 90, or 102 and listen to Nancy's bio there. But Nancy, let's jump into our topic today. You recently joined BNI, Business Networking International, and I want to share your journey with our listener and how it came to be and all of that good stuff and the results that you're getting out of it.
Absolutely. So I heard about BNI many years ago. One of my clients, one of my early clients, belonged to a BNI group. I had never heard of it. And he didn't really say much about it, but it just kind of stuck in my head. Okay, there's this thing out there. It's BNI. It's networking. He goes every once in a while. And then I think the next time I really heard about BNI was through Debbie Roberts. And when I heard about her story, she went to a BNI group when she started her bookkeeping business, and that's where she met Peter Cook, who became her business coach and then later her partner in Pure Bookkeeping. And so I was very interested, actually, when I started to really take bookkeeping seriously. I was really interested in anything that Debbie did. She was kind of my inspiration and my model for going out and really trying to do bookkeeping seriously. And so when I found out that she went to BNI, that really got my attention. And then I think, Michael, the next person to talk to me about BNI was you. And you pushed me for a long time to go to BNI. And I was really, really intimidated at the prospect because, first of all, it was expensive. And that really intimidated me. I didn't want to put out a whole lot of money unless I was sure I was going to get some good return on investment. And it seemed to have a lot of rules. You were supposed to bring referrals, and I was really scared that I was not going to be able to do the referrals to meet that commitment, and that basically I would get kicked out of the group in short order. But I happened to meet a lady. Actually, we have this little thing at our church called Chat and Chill, where on the last Friday of every month, a bunch of us go to the pub and have a glass of wine. And I met a lady there who was going to our church, and she invited me to come out to her BNI group. And I was sufficiently curious by that point that I thought, okay, you know what? She said, I'll cover your breakfast, no cost to you, just come out and see what it's about. And so I did that. And I walked into this room, and it was filled with all these people who were super excited about their businesses. And that was a really new experience for me. And the speaker that day at that BNI meeting was the lady who owns the franchise for our area. And she talked about, okay, if you want to come to B&I, then you need to be ready to take on new business. And again, that scared me a little bit because at that point in time, I was super busy, really overwhelmed. And I thought, I don't know if I can take on a lot of new business right now. So it actually took me another year before I came around to joining B&I. And in the meantime, between that first meeting and when I joined, I actually went out and I rented commercial office space and I hired a second staff member. And I put myself in a position where I was really ready to take on new business if that happened. And so after that year went by and I put myself in that position, off I went back to another B&I meeting and I put in my application and got accepted.
Amazing. It was a very long journey, and, there's nothing wrong with journeys being long. There's an old saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And when you're ready, your business is ready, there will be those opportunities, and you really put yourself into a position where it was time for you to go and do this. Now, I love how you shared some of the fears, some of the worries. Did the worries go away when you signed up?
Not immediately. Not immediately. I think when I first went to my very first meeting as an actual member, I was terrified. But what I did was, before I went to that meeting, I sat down because I'd been a couple of times, and so I knew the drill. There's a routine in the meeting. So you go in, you have about 15 minutes where you have coffee and chit-chat, and you get a chance to talk to the other members. And then you sit down, and we order breakfast, and breakfast kind of comes out as we're speaking. But the first little bit is everybody gets to give what they call their 60 seconds. Sometimes they say 60, sometimes they say 45, but anyway, short infomercial about your business. And they literally go around the room and everybody has a chance to stand up and just introduce themselves, introduce your business, say something quick. And basically what you're doing at that point, as I've come to understand, is you're educating the other people in the room about what your business is. And so before I went to that very first meeting, I sat down and I wrote down, about 12 or 15 things that I could say so that I wasn't caught unaware and I was prepared when I had to give that little infomercial. And what it did, actually, it was based on my first husband and I, when we were coming back from Florida one year, we were going on an on-ramp onto I-91, and literally on the on-ramp, the transmission fell out of our car. One of the most terrifying experiences I've ever had. Just 1 minute we had power, and the next minute we didn't. And we literally coasted onto the highway and had to get towed, had to rent a car, a big long story there. But what that taught me was how really important it is to have a mechanic take a look at your car regularly. Funnily enough, my first husband was a mechanic, but we were in my dad's car. And so I had this whole scenario that I did about bookkeeping and car maintenance. And I did this over a series of about 4 to 6 weeks. Bookkeeping is like changing the oil in your car. It's really boring. It's annoying to get to. Sometimes it's money you don't feel you need to spend. But if you don't change the oil in your car, then what can happen is your engine can blow up. And I did a whole series, bookkeeping is like changing the oil in your car. Some people think they can change their own oil, just like some people feel they can do their own bookkeeping, and what happens if that happens. Some people feel they can just get their mom to do their bookkeeping. And, some people feel they can just get their dad to change the oil. And I worked it all the way to, I take my car to my mechanic to get the oil changed because he's an expert. And when he's changing the oil, he's also looking at all of the other things in the car, and he notices things. Oh, this is about to go. You're going to need to think about changing that in the next 6 months. Oh, this is going. You need to get that fixed right this minute. He's looking at my car regularly. He knows the car. He sees problems that I don't even see. And I I tailored that to, when I'm looking in your bookkeeping, when I'm looking at your books, I'm seeing things differently than you might look at them. And when I'm looking in your book, I can see here's some problems that, are going to be big problems if you don't handle them now. And we just did that over about 6 weeks. And, what does it look like in a law office? Because I work exclusively with lawyers. When your engine blows up, well, often it looks like a law society audit, or it looks like there's some staff committing some fraud, or it looks like the bank has taken certified checks twice for an entire closing, and you've been $600,000 short in your trust account for a month and didn't even know it. And so I tied that in, and people were telling me that it made it a little bit interesting for them. And so that alleviated a lot of my fears, because I was prepared to give those little infomercials, and I kind of took them on a bit of a journey. And actually, interestingly enough, the very first day that I talked about lawyers being suspended, and it's like an oil change. If you don't do your bookkeeping, if you're a lawyer and the law society comes in and they find out you've had no books, you'll get suspended. And I had a client where that happened. And actually, the very first day, the paralegal in the group hired me to do his books.
Remarkable. So your results in BNI was 60-second presentation and a client.
Yep, the very first day.
Wow.
And when they interview you, you do this interview process, they say, what are your expectations? And I said, well, my expectation initially is I would really like some good people I can refer my clients to, because there was an IT guy, there was a guy who did internet marketing and websites, and I get asked about that kind of thing all the time. And I said to the membership committee, it's really nice for me to know some good people in these areas that I can refer my clients to. And I get that BNI is a long game. It's not something where you're going to walk in and get a bunch of referrals. People really need to get to know you, and I understand the expectation is not that I'm going to get referrals right away. And so to get a referral on the first day was amazing.
It's so great when the long game becomes a short game. It's a bit of a bonus.
It was a lot of fun. And then actually, the other thing that I did before I went to that first official meeting was I sat down and I thought about people that I knew. And I was a little bit apprehensive actually about my pool of people, because I'm usually in one of three places. I'm at home, I'm at work at clients, or I'm at church. And already there was somebody from my church in BNI. So we're sharing a pool of people, and I thought, there's a pool of people I have available, but, the lady that brought me to BNI, she's also in church, and she knows those people, and she's been in BNI for a while. So, who am I going to be able to refer from church? And then I have a group of clients that are all in one building. And the lawyer from my BNI group is also in that building. And I thought, oh, great. So, there's my other kind of source of referrals, and there's already somebody from my BNI group there. So how the heck am I going to find any referrals? And I was super worried about that. But I sat down and I thought, okay, well, in the people that I know, who's looking for an IT guy, who's been talking about doing social media marketing, who might need some of the services. And actually, in the first month, I gave 8 referrals, and I actually got the award that month in my BNI group for having the most referrals.
Wow. It really speaks to, we never know how we're going to deal with something in a specific situation. Like, what you know today, but you don't know how all the pieces are going to come together tomorrow. And we can worry about tomorrow, and we can worry about how we're going to handle something, or whether or not we'll be able to do something. But we're human beings. We're resourceful people. You were resourceful, and you figured it out. And you thought you'd be the worst at it, and you actually ended up winning the award.
It was awesome. And actually already I joined in March, and it's now July. And I've already brought $5,000 worth of business to our group.
Incredible.
They track that. There's a little app. And so all of the things that I worried about just were needless worries. And actually, it's interesting because in BNI, they train you. And I knew that going in, but again, in my head, it was like, oh, yeah, you'll get a a morning somewhere training, and then it'll be all about them and how to work for them, and then they'll throw you to the lions, and if you don't do a good job, you'll get kicked out. And it wasn't like that at all. Oh my goodness. I went in there. The very first day, they assign you a mentor. And I have the most wonderful mentor, Benoit. Actually, Benoit just did a podcast not that long ago for Successful Bookkeeper. But Benoit is my mentor, and he sat down with me. They give you a workbook. They give you a book. There's all kinds of resources that they hand you the instant you join the group. So I did a session with Benoit, then I did a second session with Benoit, then I did a session at head office. And they teach you all kinds of things, that it's not just BNI related. It's in the context of BNI, but it's skills that you can take to any network marketing group that you're going to be a part of, a board of trade or a chamber of commerce, a local business improvement association, all kinds of things. These skills are very transferable, and it's designed to make you comfortable. And I'm very introverted. I hate small talk. I'm not good at working a room. And through BNI, I'm actually learning to be better at all of those things, which just makes me better for my business overall. They also have something called BNI University, where you can do online courses. They have a gazillion podcasts, and there's a book. There's just so many resources. I was actually quite blown away at how well organized this is, and how much they really, really seek not only to help you refer people, but also to become a better business person yourself. It's value that it exceeds anything that I was expecting.
Amazing. I think that's comforting for many of our listeners, maybe who are considering doing something like this BNI, but worried about that. It really sounds like you're well taken care of. Can you speak a little bit about the group, right? Because I would imagine that the group has a big consideration as to what makes it valuable to you. Anything to say around that?
Absolutely. And it's funny that you asked that, because I saw on one of the Facebook groups, and I can't remember if it was Successful Bookkeeper or if it was one of the other ones I belonged to, there was some discussion about BNI, and somebody had said something about, I tried it, and it was the same elevator speeches and the same people, and I got nothing out of it. And I think that, not to discount what anybody else's experience was, I think that a lot of it depends on the group. And one thing that I would really encourage people is you can go around and try different BNI groups. You can go as a visitor a couple of times. You don't have to sign on the dotted line the very first day you go. You can go until you find a group of people that you really feel is going to be a group you can work with. The group that I work with, I love my group. It's a smaller group at the moment, and these groups, people come and people go, and so ours is about 20 at the moment. But I love our group. There's people from all walks of life, and it's interesting. Every time there's a visitor, they say the same thing when they're given the opportunity at the end of the meeting to stand up and say, what did you think about the group today? They always say, I love the energy in the room. And I think that was probably the thing that I noticed the most about this particular group. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of camaraderie. A lot of the people have been in the group for 15, 20 years. They know each other really well, and they work very hard to really try to help you with your business. I know there's a dentist in the group that has an office that is just kind of across a parking lot from my office, and he introduced me actually to the local Business Improvement Association, and I went to one of their meetings, and through that I have met, I think, the Mississauga Board of Trade. I'm starting to get emails from them. So the people in the group that I'm in, they go out of their way to try to really help you. And it's something that I really enjoy. I enjoy being a part of a group of varied professions, because I work exclusively with lawyers. I know a lot of bookkeepers, they work with different professions, but I stick just with the lawyers. So I'm always with lawyers. And it's really neat. Now, there's all kinds of different, right from a lady who has a full-time job and sells essential oils. Another lady has a full-time company, but also does women's accessories on the side, to a guy who's a seasoned financial advisor with a big staff. There's a dentist, there's a chiropractor, there's an IT guy, just so many different professions and areas that are in this group that I'm really enjoying that. I'm enjoying learning about different things. One of the things that I've noticed about our group is that people don't just stand up and give the same elevator speeches every week. They try to vary it. They try to throw out a little bit of information. So I've learned, for example, from the paralegal in the group that, do you know, if when the cop pulls you over and you roll down your window and you look at him and you say, "I'm sorry, officer," that actually is an admission of guilt. So don't do that. I learned from the IT guy that not only does he do IT, but he also sells things. And I've learned that he sells printer cartridges at less than what I can get them in Business Depot. And so guess where I'm getting all my printer cartridges now? I've learned from the lady who sells insurance all kinds of things about how you think you're getting a really good deal with insurance. If you're getting insurance through your professional association, or you're getting those discount online ones. And actually, she just has example after example after example of how she has saved people money. And so I had her look at our insurance, and with the same company that was available to the company I've been with for 25 years, she saved my husband and I $1,000 in premiums.
Remarkable.
It's amazing. It's amazing the resources that become available to you once you start meeting these people. And these people are really serious about helping you grow your business.
I just absolutely love that example because, I mean, it's an economic example. I mean, $1,000 saved every year is a significant amount of money, especially to you personally, because it's not a write-off, right, to your home. So it's your pre-tax value of that is probably $1,500 or more, right? So that's every year. That's every year that you're now saving that. So it's your BNI is a big chunk of your BNI has been paid for. Not to say that anybody who joins BNI is going to have the similar result and have that experience. But here's what's available when you go outside your door. The world, the universe is all out there, right? It's not happening in our offices alone by ourselves working. So if we want to expand our life, expand our business, we must go out into the world. And BNI is a fantastic method to do that based on your experience.
It's phenomenal. And actually the whole premise of BNI, and they talk about this, is that now instead of me marketing my business by myself, now I have 19 other people who are out there dealing with lawyers that I may never come across, or dealing with accountants who work with lawyers, or who know accountants that I have yet to meet, who are out there talking up my business in the same way that I'm talking up their business. And it actually becomes very easy to get referrals for people because you just start to tune into the conversations that are happening around you. And you might hear somebody saying, "Oh, I'm looking for a new dentist. Oh, hey, I know one who's great. Here's his card." Or I see people come in and they're walking kind of funny and they talk about, how they've hurt their back. And I'll say, "Oh, have you thought about going to a chiropractor?" "Well, I was thinking about it, but I don't really know anybody." And I can say, "Hey, I know somebody who's great. Here's his card." And I have these conversations all the time with people, just in talking to them about their lives and seeing what's going on. The other day I was in a law office and one of the girls in the office was trying to find somebody to build fences. Her boss was looking for somebody to do a fence, and he'd asked her to get some quotes. And she said to me, "Hey, do you know anybody who does fences?" I said, "Actually, the guy in my BNI group has been talking about that every week. He's looking for fences and decks." And I was able to give his card.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's wonderful. If you get into a good group, and again, I would really encourage people, you don't have to go to the first group that you find. If there isn't energy or you feel like people aren't really making an effort, find a different group and try them out, because there are some awesome groups out there. And the other aspect that I wasn't expecting was the social aspect. You know, it's isolating sometimes to be a bookkeeper. And it's fun to just go out every week and be a part of a group of people. And we do social events. I'm about to go to a barbecue this weekend. They've gone go-karting. They've done a whole bunch of different social things, and it's a lot of fun. The other thing that has been a little bit interesting for me is I guess because there's 20 people in our group, every 20 weeks, you do a 10-minute presentation on your business. And so it hones your public speaking skills a little bit too, which for bookkeepers, especially who tend to be some of us on the introverted side, it's a nice opportunity in a safe space to be able to hone some of those skills and expand yourself. I did a fun presentation a couple of weeks ago, and I was trying to think, how the heck am I going to make bookkeeping interesting to this group of mostly males? And so we did a whole 10-minute presentation on football. And I did a whole thing about, so what is a bookkeeper anyway? Well, you know, when we went through, here's a football team, and here's the quarterback, and the quarterback is out there doing all of the, quarterbacking work and running around and being the star and being out there in the action. And isn't that what we're like as business owners? We're out in the action. And who gets all the glory when the team is winning? Well, it's the quarterback. But who gets fired when the team is losing? Well, it's the coach. Why is that? Well, the coach is responsible for the overall strategy. And, also in our businesses, don't we fulfill that role? And then we went on to talk about, your bookkeeper is kind of like your assistant coach. She's on the sidelines with you, and she's watching the play. And when you're in there quarterbacking, she's watching when you can't. And sometimes she's calling you off the field and saying, hey, you need to come and look at this because I think you've missed this. There's a potential problem here. And we did this whole session on, what is the role of the bookkeeper, putting it in a way that I think they weren't expecting.
Wow. That is such an interesting take. And I think I hope it inspires every single person that belongs in BNI to be creative and bring their creativity, bring your natural abilities, whatever they may be, whether it's creativity, whether it's information, whatever style you have, just take that and be that. Because why I think, Nancy, you've done so well so quickly, you've turned the long game into a short game result, is that the whole objective here is for people to know, like, and trust you and want to be able to refer your business. And you did that very quickly. And I think it's because of the fact that you take a lot of care and attention into your clients. I'm sure you treat your clients the same way. You're thinking about how you can make it interesting for them. It's not just about going there and getting it done for your sake. It's about, I want to take care of my audience. I want to make sure that they're entertained. I want to make sure that they're informed. Well, these are qualities that people like in people. So, they're going to want to refer you into their trusted networks. And so I just love that example and that story. And you also treat BNI as a resource to yourself. It's not just about going and growing your business, but you leverage it for your own life around being able to go and find solutions to the problems that you're having, which is just increasing the ability to build relationships with the people inside your group.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a lot of fun, not only just for my own business, but it's fun to be able to find people for other people's businesses. It's fun to feel like you are out there helping other people. Beautiful.
Beautiful. Now, what do you see going forward for BNI? What do you have any worries about the future of it? What's your strategy going into the future? Going
into the future, I think my strategy is just to dig in deeper. They have this thing in BNI, it's called one-to-ones. So you come in, you do your infomercial every week, you do your presentation once every 20 or 30 or 40 weeks, depending on how many people are in your BNI. But the other thing that they really encourage you to do is meet one-to-one outside of the BNI meeting with each of the members of your group. And actually one of the things that they teach you in the training is that this is where you're really going to get your referrals, is when you sit down for an hour or more, one-to-one with somebody in your group and really get to know each other, really get to know what is the other guy's business about, let them get to know what your business is about, find out for them what is a really good referral for me. Let them know what is a really good referral for you. One of the first people that I had a one-to-one with was Benoit, my mentor. And I learned that Benoit does the website for the local law association. And that he had just started working with one of my clients, which I had no idea. And he started working with one of the people in one of those buildings where I have groups of lawyers. And so when I'm out there talking about Benoit, and I'll say to people, hey, do you think about your website? Do you want anything done with your website? Are you thinking about doing any social media marketing? A lot of them are very enthusiastic about that. And they say, yeah, I've been thinking about that. And I say, well, I know a guy, and they say, yeah. You know what? There's a million guys like that out there. It's hard to know who to pick. Well, I can say, yeah, and Benoit actually does that for Appeal Law Association. All of a sudden, that shifts the conversation 180 degrees, and they're very interested.
Wow.
Because they all of a sudden they realize that their association has hired him. That gives him immediate credibility in their eyes. And then I say, and he's worked with other lawyers. And suddenly he's not just one of a million guys. He's a guy who works with lawyers. He's a guy who works with the local law association, which they may be a member of. And suddenly in their eyes, that just shifts. And the only reason I know that about Benoit is because we sat down for an hour and we chatted.
Awesome. Nancy, I just love all of your stories, story after story. BNI is an opportunity if our listener wants it to be an opportunity and wants to take the great care and attention that you've taken. When you put something in, when you put energy in, energy comes back. And you're clearly demonstrating that. And I want to, hopefully, you've inspired others to go and do the same. And I challenge anyone that wants to grow their business to look. If you've taken a look at BNI and it didn't work, take another look. There might be a great group out there that'll work for you and be a really great addition to your life and to your business. Nancy, any other advice or suggestions for our listener around BNI?
I think you've said it, Michael. One of the first things that Benoit said to me when we sat down for our very first mentoring meeting was, BNI is something that you're going to get out of it what you put into it. And I see some of the members of our group who are just super, super long-time members and have been there for, many of them, over 20 years. They're very seasoned professionals. They're not going to waste their time. And they're not the ones that get the referrals every week either. Some of them have actually told me, in terms of a referral, if you just give someone my card, I consider that a referral. And that says to me, the fact that they have stayed in there all this time, even though they're not getting a referral every single week, and sometimes weeks will go by and they won't get a referral. That says to me that when they do get a referral, and the number of referrals that they get over the years, that BNI is really worth it to them. And I think that that's what I'm modeling myself after, is that because I'm in such a very narrow niche market, I'm not going to get a referral every single week, but when I do get referrals, they're good referrals. And I would say find a really good group that you're happy with, put a lot of energy into it, and play the long game.
It is, it's well said. And, you're not the first person that said, wow, this is expensive. I've heard that many times. And I think what it needs to be looked at is it's an investment, both in your time. There's the cost, the actual cost to go and attend, pay for your breakfast, all that good stuff. And then your time to attend, which is a lot of time. And the return, though, I mean, 1 or 2 clients, it's not like, there is a numbers game, right? You're going to look at that, and if you're going to spend that time and you're going to spend that money, there has to be a return. And there's, for you already, multiple returns. And in fact, there's a lot of returns that are priceless that you can't even measure. And I know there are many bookkeepers that I've worked with and that I've spoken with that have said it has changed their life. I mean, Patricia Swatsky, who's been on the podcast before as well, BNI and these types of groups have changed her life. They were like personal development for her. She really changed her whole life, not just her business. So who knows what's available for you, listener, out there. Go take a look. And there's no risk to going and just checking it out and checking out new groups. A couple of resources I want to bring up as well. eMyth Bookkeeper. So that was where you read about Debbie Roberts and Peter Cook and the story of Debbie and how BNI was successful for her. If you haven't read eMyth Bookkeeper, there is a great deal. You go into the Successful Bookkeeper community portal where our free resources exist, and you can get an opportunity to get free shipping on that book. As well, there are a whole bunch of resources around networking groups. We have the 7x5 marketing program inside the resources, which are a series of videos. And one of those videos focuses on going and how to be successful in a networking group like this. So take a look at those. There's some great opportunities in there to sharpen your own sword. And I encourage you to do that. Nancy, I want to thank you so much. Again, you're the #1 returning guest for the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. Your generosity is unmatched. And I just, on behalf of our listeners, I want to thank you so much for coming and sharing just everything that's been going on in your business and the highs, the lows. And it really is a pleasure having you.
Oh, thank you very much, Michael. I have to say it is my absolute pleasure to give anything I can to Successful Bookkeeper. I listen very, very religiously to the podcast. I enjoy it, and anything that I can throw out there that would be of any help to any of the Successful Bookkeeper community members, I'm more than happy to do that.
Beautiful. You're a wonderful human being. Thank you. And with that, we will wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye. Oh, and don't forget, if you like this episode, please leave us a review. Let others know that this is a podcast worth listening to. It sure helps us grow our audience and get these valuable lessons into the ears and hands and minds of all the bookkeepers out there. And again, thank you for the ones that have done those reviews. We'll say goodbye again. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.